Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started.
See another sunrise, sing a little song.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reclaim Leader podcast. It is so good to be here. Jesse, I know both of us are summers, just like every pastor out there. They feel crazier than ever. I don't know. I'm not doing a great job at getting the rest that I talked about a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? Great. I had high hopes.
Well, it's hard. In some ways, it's a sneaky time, right? It's sneaky in that we're trying to do a lot of fun stuff with family. We're trying to get away. We're trying to rest. But then there's things like VBS and mission trips and camps and speaking opportunities. And there's a lot that comes. And it's fun to say yes to fun things, but then it kind of stacks up. And
it really does.
Where did it go? Last night, I was out on our deck, and it was a nice evening out here in the Northwest. And I was reading I'm reading 1984 again with my daughter. I don't know if you ever read that book, but so I'm reading it, and I'm like, I haven't picked this book up in a month and a half, and it's just like there's been so much. So yeah, I'm with you. There's a lot going on. Summer. Hopefully, we'll find some rest toward the back end of summer here.
That's what I mean, actually, once we get back from our mission trip, we're about to leave tomorrow. But once we get back, then things start to dial down for me a bit. At least I'll get 2 weeks of maybe I'll go play some golf or
there we go.
I don't know, sleep in. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but yeah. I got to figure it out. That's for sure.
Got to figure it out. That's very true. So today though, man, when you put the title on here and I popped on and we were getting ready, I was like, tell me more about this, because that's a pretty big statement right there. Fixing the biggest problem in pastoral ministry. So in other words, what you're saying is if we can solve this problem, then everything else is going to fall into place and everything's going to be.
That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying this is the biggest problem.
Okay, I got you. There's more problems. This one just rises to the top.
Yeah, it definitely has a chain reaction. Yeah. And first of all, I want to welcome all of our listeners. Thanks so much for listening with us. And if you're brand new listening, welcome. I'm glad that you found us out there on the interwebs. Who knows how people are finding us and everything else, but it's really cool, to see just sort of like that more people are listening. So that's really fun. And if you ever have any questions, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com, we're happy to talk shop, talk ministry. It's our favorite thing. If you haven't noticed, we've had a nonstop conversation for almost 10 years. So join in. We'd love to have you. So this topic really blindsided me because I was reading. I don't always have time to read Dan Reiland's blog post every week, and sometimes he doesn't do it every week. But this one hit me this week. I started reading it. I'm like, and it had this title. It was something like, fixing one of the biggest problems in pastoral ministry. I'm like, oh, I better, if Dan says it, I better pay attention.
This is a very true statement.
And this is very. We touched on this idea that he decides to go deeper in. We touched on this idea in investing in people over programs. We did this back in April. We had a couple episodes back to back, people over programs. And this is sort of that idea, but in a deeper way, that how it affects us as pastors and why that matters and why most of us miss it. It's just subtle enough that we don't pay attention to it. And in his opinion, it can stall or kill ministry or stall us as followers of Christ along the way.
Yeah.
So, he says, ministry you could stall out for a bunch of different reasons. And I'm going to reference his blog post. Again, Dan Reiland, he's a great follow. His blog post, How to Fix the Number One Blind Spot Stalling Your Ministry. He said, ministry can stall out for lots of reasons, such as being busy instead of productive. I've been guilty of that, to figure that one out. Having a lack of vision, low morale, being scattered more than focused, trying to please everyone. Never, Jesse, have I tried.
He's got like the top 5 already. I'm like,
I know. And it's a throwaway. It's not even the. But he says that there is none surer than this one to stall out your ministry. If you need people more, than you feed people, you will soon be leading from empty. If you need people more than you feed people, you will soon be leading from empty. And it took me a while to just sort of think about what exactly he meant. And he starts to unpack it a bit, because I'm like, of course I need people. We all do. We're wired for a community, and that's part of our experience as Christians and pastors. But he really pokes at this idea of us trying to meet our need to be needed, or our need to be recognized or loved, and how that can very accidentally and very quickly get in the way of wanting the best for people and trying to feed them in their life with Christ. And he says it's a conversation worth having, and I agree. So we're going to be talking about this. Well, first reaction off of kind of this idea of needing versus feeding.
Yeah, no, I love it. Oh man, it's a really challenging one. It's about an orientation to each relationship maybe that we have. Am I needing this person to make me feel a certain kind of way, like my idea was valued or it mattered, or there's some significance attached to that, versus being curious about how I can lift other people up and help them explore more of who God made them to be, and kind of push them toward the front. And so I guess that's where my mind goes. That some of the challenge I have sometimes is to stop thinking about how's this reflecting on me and my reputation and my place, versus saying, how can I be there to support, encourage, feed, fill, and push others to the front? And so maybe there's something of that tension in there. That's kind of initial response, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, he says we all need people, right? And right. In the church, in the context of quote unquote need, like we need people to believe in the vision and trust leadership and fill volunteer roles and give generously to the ministry and invite friends to church. Like part of being in church, like we need the Christians to be the Christians and to do the things. But it's about the order in which you think of these things. So he asked, which one is your more dominant inner drive, feed or need? He said, we all enter ministry with a passionate desire to shepherd and care for the people we serve. But somewhere along the way, a subtle shift happens. We start needing them in a spiritually and emotionally unhealthy way. This one's been turning in my head because I know when I talk to pastors of churches that are stuck, he talks about stalling out ministries. One of the things that I often hear from them is, if I left, everything would crumble.
Yeah.
And part of that is because the whole system has been designed around them. And most of the time it's intentional. Only I can do it. I need to be needed. And it's not that we consciously think these things as we make decisions, but I've seen it firsthand how it stalls out ministry. And I know there's a part of me that, I hate not being here on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And part of it's because I enjoy preaching so much and seeing everybody. It's like a family reunion. And I know there's a part of me that's like, I need that.
Yeah.
And so how do I make sure I am walking a good line, that's a healthy thing and not spiritually and emotionally unhealthy, where I get it in my head that I can't be away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And without me, this is going to fall apart. Like that's a big key word there. And I remember it's been years ago now, but we, as a staff team, we read The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. I don't know if you remember that book. It's so good. I still have the triangle and the pyramid of trust and things on my wall. I mean, it's just huge impact on me. But one of the things that came out in that book was this idea that no one on the team is indispensable. In other words, if there's someone who the whole thing falls apart, if they're not there, something's wrong in the system that needs to change. Like nobody's indispensable. And I remember having a staff team conversation about it and we weren't talking about that yet specifically. And somebody said to another team member, without you, this place would fall apart. You do so many things. And it was meant as a compliment. It was meant to be an encouragement, but you could kind of see what that sense had done to that person's heart over time. I think it actually led towards some resentment, some from frustration, some burnout, some things that were going on that were not healthy or good, because there was this perception that without them it wouldn't go. And maybe it had started as it felt good to be needed, but then it grew into something else that was not so good. And so when we were having that conversation, I interrupted and I reminded everybody of what Lencioni had said, that nobody's bigger than the team, that no one is indispensable, that we're all playing our part. But and man, it was like I had punched that person in the face, because their identity had been built around the need to be needed. And now this kind of unhealthy thing had grown. And so it's a tough one, but we can work our way into that, because it actually kind of feels really good at first to need to be needed.
Yeah.
Jesse, when you're not here on a Sunday, it's just not quite the same. Or, we only come to the Sundays when we know you're preaching. Like, those things they kind of feel really good to hear, but man, is that going to track us in an unhealthy direction if we latch onto those things too strongly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe a question to ask ourselves is, do I need their approval in order to feel successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or do I need their attendance to feel secure?
Yeah. What validates in the end, right? What validates you?
Or laughing at our jokes, or I don't know, whatever it is. Yeah,
all those little things, right, that add up to our sense of well-being, or our sense of feeling at home in our own skin, or just whatever it is. And I think we got to be thoughtful about that. So maybe Dan really is on the right track with this. Kind of struck a chord with both of us.
It was. Yeah, and he was very vulnerable here. He says, there have been several occasions where I caught myself feeling more important because the church was larger. He says that's a problem. The moment any of us start unintentionally using people to nurse our own insecurities or feed ego, we stop leading them for their best interests.
Right. Yeah.
Dan, you're killing me. This is
that's tough.
These lead to needing people in an unhealthy way that subtly changes our leadership and will stall out our ministry every time. So I want to just kind of jump in and ask, well, why? Why is that true?
Yeah.
One of the things was, and we were just teaching, we're doing the book of James this summer, and we just went over James chapter 2 about not showing favoritism.
Mm-hmm.
And what can happen, and I know that I always have to guard against this, is, am I going to give my most love, my most kindness, my most preferential treatment to the people that I'm closer to in the life of the church at any given moment? Am I going to make sure that they, edge out the other person we were thinking of for a thing, or, are they going to get? I think partiality can be a problem, and it can stall out ministry. I think we could also burn people out, or burn ourselves out. Like, either we're trying to please everybody, or we see them, the volunteers, we sort of see them as a system or a commodity and not a person, and be like, oh, come on, dude. We need you. We need you again. We need you every week. We need you. And even if we're not doing that, we might even accidentally push them away because they feel like they don't have access to us, or we don't care about them as people. We just care about what they can do for the church. This isn't a fun topic, Jesse. What's the matter with you?
Let's stop right now and pick another cheerful topic. How about that? Whose idea was this? Dan wrote this. You didn't have to bring it, Jason.
I didn't, but I feel like, I feel like there's just something important here for all of us to be aware of,
It's really crucial, right? I mean, there, in some ways, the heart of our ministry is at stake, is what he's saying. And I feel that subtle shift. You gravitate toward the people after you preach on a Sunday. Here's an example in my own life. There's kind of two circles of people talking. One of those groups, I know they're like my beloved, older crowd that love me, and I'm just their cute, wonderful pastor, and they're going to say really nice things to me after the sermon, and they're going to be full of compliments, and it's going to be nice and wonderful and a lovely spot. And over here there's a couple of the people that are like, well, I liked your point about this, but I don't know if I agree with this other point you made, kind of more critical thinkers and whatever. And man, I'm going to naturally want to gravitate over to these sweet old ladies. They're going to love me. Right. It's like, and so those things over time, though, you're right. If we begin to see people as a commodity within our kind of church universe that we're helping steward, or if we begin to see people as just machinery and the systems, like those are just little things. And oh man, so this is right on. Maybe Dan is exactly right about needing to kind of just take a careful look about, are we needing or are we feeding? Because this is already it's kind of struck a chord with us. So
yeah, he says here are several warning signs if you're not sure, that your needs are greater than your desire to feed. And listen, I don't think these are perfect, but I like the framework that he's trying to create here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to rattle them off. The first one, you perceive people to be a distraction to getting your work done. Again, that's not investing in the relationships. And we've talked about that too. Oftentimes when I get stuck in this mode, the best thing for me to do is to invite people out to coffee.
Totally. Yeah.
And just start spending intentional time. It sort of snaps me out of it.
Yeah. Remembering that everything we're doing is about discipleship and helping those people grow and follow Jesus, and not about getting the things done. Like coffee is a good way to kind of check yourself on that one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You are more disappointed in a person's volunteer performance than their lack of spiritual growth.
Can both of those things be true? Because I feel like sometimes they're connected. But I hear what he's saying there. Like, you're like, how come you bailed on us 2 weeks in a row when you said you were going to come or something? And we're not thinking about what's going on in their life with the Lord that would kind of cause these symptomatic things down the road. But
or like, I'm more disappointed because of what you couldn't give to the church than what we couldn't give to you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. When numbers gain more attention and energy than stories of life change. That's a big one. And I knew that was always going to be that's one thing I'll say that we've always done well, is we celebrate life change all the time.
Yeah.
It's baked into all of our meetings, that we just have time to share, because especially back when I didn't even know if anything was going to grow. We were just trying to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to focus on numbers. We wanted to focus on life change. And boy, that really resets the button, as a church when you start focusing on that. He says, your joy factor is low and your frustration level is high. That resonates.
Yeah.
This was his last one. I thought was really interesting. I hadn't thought about this before. He said, you start trying to implement quick fixes rather than value-driven, principle-based ministry.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's because when you're in this state of need instead of feed, that you don't have the energy to do the thing the right way. You just want to try to do the end around.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think
you don't have the emotional bandwidth or something.
Or maybe sometimes we look up and realize, man, we've gotten off track here. That whole conversation we have about the culture that you have is what you've either created or allowed. And so maybe you look up and you're like, man, the culture has drifted towards a need versus feed. Something's going on. And I think maybe what he's getting at with the quick fixes versus a longer term value driven approach is, it's like, the team is down by 5 runs and you're trying to hit a grand slam with nobody on base, right? It's like you can't get it all back at once. It's going to have to be a kind of a process to build back in. But there's this temptation to do that. We hear that in football all the time, right? You can't score 3 touchdowns on one possession. It's like you got to get back to some of the fundamental basics and work your way back into a healthier place. But the temptation is to try and get it all done all at once. And maybe these quick fixes are a way to try to make up for lost time, or to immediately feel like we're doing something real about an issue we notice. But those quick fixes, I think his point there is, they're going to be a flash in the pan. You're going to be right back to where you were, or maybe worse off.
Yeah. So let's go back to that blind spot of need versus feed. So Jesus says, feed my sheep. And I was thinking about this, and as I was thinking about his post, I said, Jesus said, feed my sheep, not need my sheep to feed me.
Nice.
So Dan says, the leader who lives first to feed the people lives dependent upon God, right? Not on them, dependent upon God. This practice keeps you filled so you can feed others.
Yeah.
And when priorities are in the right order, things like serving, giving, and inviting are naturally in the best interest of those you serve. That is part of how they grow spiritually. So it's the order, right? When you get that flipped around and it becomes like you need them to do the things for the sake of validating you or for the sake of what they can give to the church rather than what's for them, that's when things get messed up and things start to stall out and people get hurt. So thankfully, he doesn't just leave us there.
Okay, good.
He gives us 5 practices of leaders with feed and need in the right order. The first is you genuinely love people as a natural lifestyle. Church leaders don't last long without authentic love for their people. If you run on empty, it's easy to become distant, and you can't love people from a distance.
Yeah.
That's spot on to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, what was the thing? Pastor Teresa, when she was here, she used to always say when we were hiring somebody or hiring another pastor, she used to also be like, people always want to go to like the skills. Can they preach? Can they teach? Can they? And she goes, honestly, the number one thing we look for is, are they going to love the people? That's what we need them to do.
Yeah, so good.
And she was absolutely right. All right. Number 2, you sincerely want the best for those you serve. And I would add, even if that means they can't do the thing you want them to do.
Right. Or they're going to do something else, or they're going to whatever. Right. Yeah. That's such a good, healthy perspective. I think about this in relationship to our staff team a lot. Like, am I seeking their good, what's best and good for them, and helping them move toward their hopes and dreams and the vision God has for their life? Or am I holding on to them as a resource that I need to do the things that I think matter for our ministry? And the thing is, I think if we pour into them in the direction that the Lord is leading them, it's going to actually lead to really healthy, good things in our church life. But there is this little piece that wants to hang on to them as a resource or a piece of machinery for the things that I think we should be doing. So I love that. And I love that towards our own people too. Are we seeking to lift them up and see God's vision for their life and push them toward it, whatever that means for their relationship with us or the church? So good, man. I resonate with that.
And it's a good corrective to, I mean, strategy is important and has its place, but if we're not willing to have a shepherd's heart, I think we're in trouble. He says, delivering your best ministry requires both a shepherd's heart and a strategic mind. A shepherd's heart cares about the one and strategic mind. The shepherd's heart cares about the one, and the strategic mind helps you reach the many.
Yeah.
I think that's really good balance. All right. 3, you spiritually protect those you are called to shepherd. He reminds us in John 10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. As Christian leaders, we help protect people spiritually, primarily in 3 ways, he says: teaching biblical truth, praying for people and teaching them to pray, discipling and challenging toward maturity.
There you go. It's good stuff.
Yes, and yes.
That's so good.
4, you cheerfully invest time with people. Cheerfully, Jesse.
Does it have to be cheerful? The Lord loves a cheerful giver, Jason.
That's right.
That's right.
He said, you can't be with all the people all the time, but your desire to be with people matters.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think back to some people that made a big impact in my life. Not all of them spent a ton of time with me, but what they did well was there was a way of really being present with me when they were with me. There was an authentic cheerfulness about that. And so I think that's spot on. I remember way back in college ministry, a guy named Mike Gaffney was the college pastor, and there was 1,200 college students. But what struck me, and still I remember to this day, is every person that stood in a line of probably 25 students after a Tuesday night who wanted to talk to Mike about something, there was nobody else in the room except that person when he was talking to them. He wasn't looking over their shoulder for who was next or shaking their hand and pulling them through like we do sometimes at the back of the church line. We're like, all right, keep it moving. He was just able to really be present, or at least that's how it felt. And so to me, that's what comes to mind. Be cheerful about the opportunity to be in someone's life, whether it's in a deep way or whatever that moment might be. So that's so good. And kind of like your coffee shop example, I think when we do that in a healthy way, it actually does meet something of a need, but it's more what God is doing in us and through us and the joy that comes from that, rather than us getting some sort of validation from them. So it's good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then lastly, you strategically and intentionally invest in the growth of those you lead. Strategically, we ask, what are the needs of the organization? Personally, we ask, what are the needs of the individual? And they're both important
really
questions.
Yeah. How does that go for you? Is that something that's like on the front of your mind, or do you have to just bring yourself back to that again, or how do you approach
I always need to remind myself. And the biggest realization I had was that it doesn't have to look like a training session within the staff meeting.
Right. Yeah.
It honestly, it mostly looks like, hey, you're having a problem with this leader. I trust you're going to make a good decision around this. What I've learned over the years is X. I'm trying to teach in a way that's equipping and empowering and validating for them. And I try to be mindful of that, especially as we encounter bumps in the road, as we do, almost every week. There's stuff in some area of ministry, and just helping them to grow intentionally is probably paying off a lot more in their lives than, okay, we're going to sit down and talk about difficult people.
Yeah.
I think both are fine, but you know what I mean?
Sure. No, that's really good. Sometimes I feel guilty for not doing more like training things. I'm like, I should be training, but I'm like, what am I going to be training them on? Like, let's just do it in real time. And so I'm with you. I think there's a couple things on leadership development or helping people grow. One, I think there's a lot more that's caught than taught in ministry. Yeah. In the sense that, like, in that sideline conversation as you're walking to the next thing, just processing with somebody or working on being that example for others of what it looks like to have a hard conversation with an honorary person, and then processing that out loud with your team. And so I'm with you. And I think for me, when I'm working with staff, I want to have that kind of an open curiosity. What else is going on? How can I help you? What are you working on? Where's the sort of the self-awareness gaps that we can kind of get to? But I think it takes a real intentionality to think about helping someone else grow. And when the grind of ministry, it's going to pay off big time, but it's not something that always is at front of mind unless we like put posters on our wall to remind us of it, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah. And for me, kind of my growth over the last, I would say 2, maybe 3 years has been this realization. I really need to do better at not just equipping people, but giving them real opportunities to do things, even if they will do it imperfectly or make mistakes. I've got to figure out how to keep giving more opportunities to people. And I feel like I've gotten better at that, but it's only because I'm thinking about it constantly. That's like a big thing for me. And I still have a very long way to go. But I don't think there's any way you do this stuff without really being mindful of it, putting it on the top of your to-do list every week or something. Yeah.
How do I help this person grow into the mature version of themselves or something? And just as other people did for me and for you, and like we do for each other, we're trying to help each other notice and see and understand and grow. So good stuff, man. And so those 5, those are the healthy direction to move in. And if we're noticing that we're drifting into this, I need to be needed, it feels good to be needed, or I'm getting validation from this, and there's some sort of emotional deficit or spiritual deficit that we're trying to make up for, that's kind of that warning light, I think, on the dashboard. And there's a difference between the check engine light that's like, all right, I got to take this in, see what this is, versus like the flashing engine light that means pull over and stop now. And for me, I think this is more potentially for a lot of us, a check engine light that's like, hey, you might want to go get this looked at, or you might want to just pause.
Time for an oil change. Yeah.
time for an oil change, or maybe you got to tighten the gas cap in the back of the car, which is true for my car. It's like the check engine, like kind of crank it down. But it means slow down, figure out what's happening, and make some corrections so that you don't end up in a situation where your ministry stalls out or comes to an end. So Dan is so good, and I'm always so
good.
So good.
And I think too, the answer, the fix for this is very simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. But what's he say? He says you go back to it's about dependence on God.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reset.
Yeah.
You're not depending on the people to fill you. You're depending on God to fill you, so then you could feed the people.
Totally. And we
all know that, by the way. It's not like, oh, duh, Jason. Yeah,
well,
I know. We all know that, but man, do we need to hear it.
We need to be reminded. I'm looking through the Psalms right now. In Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. That means I'm committed to him. I trust him. I'm following him. And then he commissions some of us to follow the good shepherd and then to be the under shepherds. Man, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a shepherd. I was like, that sounds, defending and protecting the flock, leading them in the way they should go. And it's not about me. It's about the sheep and laying my life down for them. So I'm glad that there were some of those reminders in there too, that it just, as we all know, in the end, it's not about us filling a need and a hole in our lives. If we're in a healthy way in ministry and we're going in a good direction, I think a lot of good things do happen in our hearts, but it's coming from a healthy place in our connection with who we are in Christ and knowing God's love and his presence in our lives, rather than seeking to get that from the people. And so good reminders, Jason, and kind of a good challenge in the middle of the summer. Where are we getting that validation? And are we needing or are we feeding? So I'm going to take that question with me this week.
I love it. All right. Hey, pastors, I hope this is helpful for you and in your ministry this summer, and pray that you are doing better than I am with getting some rest, and and that the Lord is blessing you and your ministry and giving you what you need for when you need it. Mm-hmm. And man, we're just all rooting for each other. I mean, that's the beating heart of this podcast. We say it every week. Ministry is hard. It is so much better when we do it together. All right. Have a good one, everyone.